What up, everybody? How's it going? This is yours truly, Rama Screen. Uh, Let me double check to see that we are live. It's been a while since I did a live stream last time. Just been busy. All right. But I wanted to talk about the latest update regarding Alec Baldwin's situation, and I just have a few thoughts to share about that. And maybe I'll go more live stream again this weekend since I have more time in my hands on other topics, of course. But Um, this always, of course, intrigues me. The development of this, we don't know yet if there's going to be charges filed, by the prosecutors against anybody on the set specifically. But Alec Baldwin did an interview with ABC News George Snuffleupagus. I'm sorry. The correct pronunciation is Stephanopoulos. Snuffleupagus is that lovable elephant from Sesame Street. And I can't really show you the whole interview because I fear that it might, do the whole copyright strike. But I can. This is basically where you can watch it on ABC News YouTube channel. They have part one and part two. But there are quotes from this interview that. Oh, why I got two notifications here? That I wanted to basically talk about. So the first one is the one that caught everybody's attention in that he said that uh, he did not pull the trigger. Wow. Okay, so if you have been living under the rock, back in October, I believe, yeah, 21 October, October 21st, in New Mexico, on the set of his Western movie Rust, Alec Baldwin accidentally shot a prop gun and killed cinematographer Halyna Hutchins and injured the director. So that was the incident, and so it's been a couple of months now. And so in his interview with George Snuffleupagus, I'm sorry, Stephanopoulos, um, here's a quote. Here's from BBC. Okay, so let me make this big for you guys so you guys can read it along with me. Alec Baldwin said, "I don't know what happened on the set. I don't know how that bullet arrived in that gun. I don't know." Um, who's this chiming in? Oh, Marcus, what's up, buddy? Yes, this whole situation with Baldwin keeps getting weird indeed. I know it's late midnight, so I'm probably talking to just myself. Everybody's asleep, or maybe just talking with you, Marcus, and that's fine. But hey, Chad is here too. What up? Good vibes, Chad. Always a pleasure to have you on, man. So Alec Baldwin told George Stephanopoulos, which again you can watch here the whole thing, but I'm not gonna play it. A fear of copyright strike. Alec Baldwin says, "I don't know what happened on that set. I don't know how that bullet arrived in that gun, but I'm all for doing anything that will take us to a place where this is less likely to happen again." The actor said that during the rehearsal on October 21st, cinematographer Halyna Hutchins was directing his every move. "She's guiding me through how she wants me to hold the gun for this angle. I'm holding the gun where she told me to hold it, which ended up being aimed right below her armpit." So that kind of cleared up one thing, right? Because the assumption for the past couple of months is like, oh, why was Alec Baldwin pointing the gun at the director and the cinematographer? Like, what business is he doing that for? Like, is he like playing around with the gun? Like really, he's not taking the gun seriously. That's very negligent of him. So, and people, there are people who assume that maybe it was one of those scenes where I think one of you guys suggested this, and it makes sense. Maybe it's one of those scenes where he had to point the gun at the camera, like a cool shot kind of deal, because it's Western. This is a Western movie. Maybe that's the case. So that's the assumption as well. But it says here, or he said it, that the DP Halyna Hutchins was directing his move. It's like where to hold the gun. I'm holding the gun where she told me to hold it, which ended up being aimed right below her armpit. To get the shot, the actor said he needed to cock the gun, but not fire it. And then he said, the trigger was not pulled. I didn't pull the trigger. I cock the gun. I go, can you see that? Can you see that? Can you see that? And then I let go of the hammer of the gun, and the gun goes off. Now, I'm not a gun expert, and I'm sure there, right now, as we speak, there are many. Because I saw one, a YouTuber who claimed to be like a gun expert, doing like analysis on like Alec Baldwin's, claim. He's like, oh, let me show you how to handle a gun. Some people do that. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not a gun expert, so I don't know. I don't know exactly in what way a gun could just accidentally go off without you pulling the trigger. Um, Maybe you know the answer to that. Is that even possible? Because the thing is, the reason why I will never have a gun, if you want to have a gun, if you're a gun owner, God bless you. It's a free country. We'll do what you do, you boo. But the reason I don't have a gun is stuff like this can happen. I mean, uh, even if you think that you're treating it safely, you just never know how it might backfire at you. I remember reading about this real life historical figure. I believe his name is Melvin Purvis. He's an FBI agent. He's played by Christian Bale in that movie Public Enemies. Remember that Public Enemies, Michael Mann movie. And so Melvin Purvis was. Do you know how he died? He died while cleaning his gun. He died while cleaning his gun. He didn't die, at the hands of any bad guy or bad guy shooting at him. No, he was cleaning his gun, and it just like accidentally killed him. And I'm like, you can look him up. You can look him up on Wikipedia. It's just shit like that is like, wow. You just never know. Even some FBI agent, somebody who's supposed to be professional, could get killed by his own gun, and then just like that's why I'll never have a gun. And so I know people are like looking at this statement with the initial reaction that I read on Twitter, like, really, really, Alec Baldwin, you didn't pull the trigger. Like, I call that bullshit. Like, oh, Alec Baldwin's such a liar. I can't believe, like, let me show you my YouTube analysis. On how that's not possible. And how much of a bullshitter Alec Baldwin is. Maybe, but maybe he's not. Maybe just like that FBI agent Melvin Purvis, it just sometimes the gun just goes off, um, and that's scary. That's scary. And as you could see from at least from Alec Baldwin's explanation here, it's not like that he was aiming it at the DP intentionally, or like he was doing some kind of a cool shot in front of the camera, kind of like what we talked about. No, it was like he was very in such close proximity with the DP, and the DP was like instructing his move and whatnot, and just goes off, and that's horrible. That's horrible. That's horrible. I would not wish that on anybody. So let's see. Are there any other details here? I believe there are further details here. So Alec Baldwin says, "I would never point a gun at anyone and pull a trigger at them." And then he says, he can't imagine ever doing a movie again that even has a gun in it. I really can't, Alec Baldwin says. So this might be the end of Alec Baldwin's, doing gigs with guns in it. He might be open to doing any, playing a dad in a coming of age movie, or playing an uncle in some kind of comedy or whatever, or maybe 30 Rock sequel. I don't know. But it seems like he said, like, I'm not going to do another movie that has any gun in it involved at all. Marcus says, people think actors take gun safety classes. They don't. Not all of them. Yep. Chat, interesting fact. I didn't know about that. Yeah. Um, Here it is. Here it is. Here's another thing that he also shared. Earlier in the day on Thursday, on that day, when the incident happened, The film's assistant, director Dave Halls, backed up Baldwin's claim. So here's an like a witness, if you will, or somebody else on the set who says, "Yeah, Alec Baldwin's telling the truth." So his quote is, Dave Hall said, "The entire time Baldwin had his finger outside the trigger guard." You see this? Outside the trigger guard, parallel to the barrel, and that he told me since day one he thought it was a misfire. Um, Lawyer Lisa Taraco told Good Morning America, and until Alex said that it was just really hard to believe. But Dave Halls has told me since the first day I met him that Alec did not pull that trigger. Dave is the assistant director on the set. Alec Baldwin said the gun was supposed to be empty. I was told I was handed an empty gun. When Hutchins collapsed, he said his first thought maybe she had fainted or had a heart attack because the idea that someone put a live bullet in the gun was unthinkable. Um, so George Stephanopoulos, in his interview with Alec Baldwin, which you can watch again on ABC News YouTube channel, uh, at one point George Stephanopoulos said, George Clooney, your fellow actors said, it's crazy, it's insane for any actor to not check their prop gun or to not double check to see if the gun contains live rounds. Um, and Alec Baldwin kind of takes issue with that. He's like not offended, but he's like, really, George? Like, so here's what he said in response to that to George Clooney. He's like, well, there were a lot of people who felt it necessary to contribute some comment to the situation, which really didn't help the situation at all. If your protocol is you're checking the gun every time, well, good for you. Good for you. Um, Despite not wanting to play the victim, Baldwin did complain about how tough it has been to have people calling him a murderer on social media and elsewhere. And that includes former President Donald Trump, who Baldwin famously enraged with his long-running Saturday Night Live impression. Yeah, I don't agree with that. A lot of people kind of take advantage of the situation, especially the right wingers who hated Alec Baldwin's impression of Donald Trump, and they're like jumping on the bandwagon. Oh, finally Alec Baldwin got his comeuppance. Like finally karma. It's like no, 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 no. I'm not on that camp. I think it comes down to what it has come down to all this time. It is an accident. It's not like he purposely or intentionally wanted to do that. But now we got some details as to how exactly that happened. Um, Now, before I let you go, I want to show you a clip from that interview. I think if I showed you from Twitter, I don't think I'm gonna get in trouble. There's this thing with YouTube. Even though we claim the fair act use, sometimes there'll be networks like the big boys like ABC, CBS, and they'll be like, "Oh my God, you're playing our clip, even though like for 2 seconds on your YouTube channel, copyright strike." It's like they're just douches. So hopefully, with this playing on Twitter, it should be okay. But here's the quote anyway, even if I don't play it. So George Stephanopoulos asked Alec Baldwin, "Do you feel guilt?" And Alec Baldwin says, "No, no, someone else is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me." Yeah, here's a
so clearly, so right there on the surface, you felt shock, you felt anger, you felt sad.
No.
You felt sadness. Do you feel guilt?
No. No. I feel that there is. I feel that someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me.
Baldwin now awaiting the outcome.
See, I can't. I kind of take umbrage with that statement. I kind of take issue with that because, come on, man. Like, I get that you already set the record straight. Kind of tell us what the details as to that very minute of what happened. I get that, but the worst thing you could say is that, like, oh, it's not my fault, I got, I don't feel remorse whatsoever. Like, dude, that is such a I'm sorry to bring politics into this, but that is such a Trump move. Like, never having to apologize for anything. Like, really, just Alec, just say I'm sorry and then move on. Don't say it's not my fault. That just comes off as arrogant and, like, not taking personal responsibility. Like, it doesn't make you look good, man. Now, a lot of people say that this interview was a mistake on his part because this whole thing is still under investigation and whatnot. And I'm sure there was stuff that he wanted to say to George Stephanopoulos, but he couldn't because it's still under investigation. Uh, but do I blame him for doing this interview? Probably not, because he was probably under a lot of pressure. People like calling him murderer, calling him like a bad person, calling him all this. So it's like, I get that he wanted to set the record straight, and he has every right to do that. But statements like this, saying, "Oh, I don't feel guilt. I'm not responsible for it. Somebody else is responsible, but not me." It doesn't make you look good. The optics of that statement it doesn't come off sounding like you feel remorseful. Like, I know in the interview, like, he's all teary eyed a couple times, but still, like, this statement is it just makes you seem like a jackass. It's not necessary for you to say these things, Alec Baldwin. Um, uh, Rare content. Yes, I'm telling you my opinion right now as I'm going. Chat. It was Cat in the Hat. uh, Marcus Morris, the armor is responsible for the weapon, but Baldwin's responsible as a producer and for being compassionate at this time. But Baldwin has known to be a jerk in real life. Exactly. I think with the statement when he said, like, no, somebody else is responsible, but not me. That's Alec. That's the jerkiest Alec Baldwin kicking in. That's the you know. How they say, like, oh, that's the alcohol speaking. Well, this is the Alec Baldwin that kicks people in the parking lot. That's him speaking, and that's through that statement. So it's not this statement doesn't help you, Alec. Really, just stay away from saying shit like this. And I'm not even your lawyer. uh, let's see some of the responses here. Poppy Hawk, this dude really said no. Someone is responsible, but for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but it's not me. When he was the one who had the gun and pulled the trigger. So yeah, that statement is just gonna enrage people or gonna trigger people even more, pun intended. So that's not a really wise move on his part. Um, so yeah, it's still developing. I read an article that the armorer, like you said, Marcus, the armorer is uh, being looked at by prosecutors. There might be charges filed against them soon enough. Uh, we don't know if there's gonna be any sort of civil lawsuit. I'm sure Halyna Hutchins' family would want to do that. If I were them, I would file lawsuits against the production, against the producers. Alec Baldwin is one of the producers, so we don't know yet how this will turn out eventually. This is just another stage. Today's another stage in the developing situation of Alec Baldwin's tragedy, or Halyna Hutchins' tragedy, I should say. So, but yeah, now we know. Now we know from the horse's mouth himself exactly what happened on the set. He said it himself here, like, Halyna was directing me, and then the gun just went off. It just went off, and this is Halyna, by the way. Man, such a young rising DP. Wow, so heartbreaking. And yeah, this just reaffirms my belief and principle that I would never own a gun. I would never own a gun. I don't know. I'm sure there are many other ways to, kind of protect myself or defend myself. I'd get a bat, I'd get a mace, a taser. Hearing stories like this just makes me feel like, yeah, I have no desire now, even more so than ever, that to not own a gun. I have no desire to own a gun whatsoever. This is just pretty much establish it even further. So let me know your thoughts about this topic, about this latest development on the Alec Baldwin situation and Halyna Hutchins tragedy. What do you think about not George Stephanopoulos, Alec Baldwin saying that he didn't pull the trigger? Are you a gun expert? Can you chime in? And what do you think about his statement that he doesn't feel guilt and that he says somebody else is responsible? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Everybody else, chat. Marcus, Rare Content, thank you for chiming in. Thank you for chatting with me. For the rest of you guys, share your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. Let's rock this.